Oh yeah. You were gonna get there.
All right.
We are talking 360 live.
What's up, YouTube?
Woohoo!
Did we actually get the Facebook ported over to my page today?
Are we broadcasting to Facebook Ryan's page?
All right, I think so.
We'll take Dave's word for it. It's happening.
We moved it from the company page over to the one on my, like if you follow me, that's like my build in my house, so I figured it'd make more sense.
It makes lots of sense.
So if you're on Facebook and you want to watch, welcome, and you just follow BRStv guy. All right, so today, maybe to pull up that first slide, because that's what it's really all about. Boom.
Sometimes you gotta poke. I wouldn't poke that bear, but you gotta poke a bear.
Sometimes you just gotta poke the bear. All right, so here's the thing, man. Lighting is like the most hotly debated, fiercely protected thing out there.
I mean, short of buying my fish, I mean, if you combine the cost of my fish, the cost of my corals, the cost of my tank, and all the other equipment, sometimes people pay upwards of all of that cost rolled into one for their lighting.
Mm-hmm. So purchase defense.
Oh yeah, for sure.
So there's two things. A, man, it's not just purchase defense. Like I spent a lot of money, so obviously I hope that I got the right thing.
Yeah.
But B, man, I spent a lot of like mental energy trying to pick the right thing.
Yeah.
Right. So like you kind of end up defending the conclusions you came to. One of the things I'm going to tell you right away: conclusions are unique to you and your scenario. You got like we talk about this all the time. Light goes up 20 feet, then you got a different solution. Then 20 inches, then 6 inches. But today, here's the deal: we're going to come up with a whole new standard. So like we're going to up the game. Talk about T5s as the gold standard. Well, like can we do better?
We
the
always,
answer is yes.
Yeah, we always talk about that. Like, all right, so gold standard for spread and distribution, T5s, and actually in our videos that's what we tout also. And then there's that spectrum, you know, the ATI T5 Blue Plus bulb that has created some of the most awesome tanks that I've seen and personally used.
So you're going to see in this episode how to get past the gold standard because there's better. Let's do it. All right, so number one, what is it? It's called the platinum standard.
Platinum standard.
Yeah, all right. So
it's like levels of credit cards.
Yeah, really. I don't know, like I need the double diamond or whatever, like the carbon fiber Amex Black Centurion. We need the Centurion standard. All right. So this came from actually all the great things come from all you guys' feedback. So one of the things I like most is steel sharpening steel.
Asking those tough questions.
Yeah, like when people tell me like, no, you did it stupid.
Challenging you.
Like, I don't care. You're not gonna hurt my feelings. What you're gonna do is make me think about it a little deeper. Yeah. And so this was the first one here actually. So I think it was Craig Bruckler.
Yeah.
And he said, can you read this thing? I can't read it.
Let me get real close here. So the highlighted areas, so I took all the knowledge I've learned over the 20 years of reefing, and this is what I came up with. The platinum standard. And then he says, and he explains kind of what his platinum standard is, which we'll see a picture of. You can see it down below in the picture. And he says, but damn it, you are Ryan from BRS. Like I said, you have brand loyalty. Make the platinum standard known.
All right, so here's the thing. Immediately when I saw it, like, he's right.
Yeah,
like,
come on,
I don't know if I need to change anything, but we definitely, why are we stopping at like the gold standard of a T5 bulb that was around when I entered the hobby 16 years ago?
Yeah, true.
We can do better.
We can do better.
Right? And the fact is actually, it's been really hard to do better.
Right,
because we can.
Well, because the technology and the tools have been evolving too. So, you know, back in the Stone Age, we had a hammer, we had a chisel, and that's kind of what we worked with. But we improved on the tools, and then we can improve on the standard.
Yeah, actually what we saw, I think was one of the slides we used earlier, was like right tool, right job, used correctly.
Yeah.
Right, so this is actually the thing I think you're going to see is it isn't that the LEDs have been a problem, it's how they've been used over the years. So we'll see that today. All right, so what was the other comment that came up right after that one?
Steel sharpening steel. This was Brett Hartman, and he says, I think there might be a flaw here. You are just picking the Blue Plus spectrum as ideal because it's been used so much, but have not tested to see if it really is ideal for coral growth.
All right, so let's see that spectrum real quick. That's the next one here. So it's that big blue, wide blue spectrum. All right, so why is it we use that?
Well, you look at you look here, and we probably don't have the slide for this one, but like last week's live, we brought up a slide that has, chlorophyll A, chlorophyll C, and carotenoids.
Okay, we got a whole a spectrum episode dedicated to why this
just to this. And if you look at all of those compared side by side, they all have some pretty high peaks and targets in that blue 400 to 500 range. And so when you go look at the ATI T5, Blue Plus bulb, it hits a lot of that range. It maybe not hit all of the other peaks in like the greens, reds, and what have you, especially like the reds, but it does cover that wide band.
All right, so here's the deal though, man. We'll never know.
No.
Nobody knows what the perfect spectrum is for the corals. We'll never know, but I do know this. This light source is the most successfully used light source I have encountered. I've been doing this for a while. I know a lot of people have been doing it even longer than me, and everyone will agree that this specific light source has produced the most successful tanks. So that is the standard, barring any other knowledge out there. So have we proven it is the absolute best?
No.
No. Is there a better standard that we should select? I don't think so.
We can keep testing and hope that we find out, but there's so many differences in these corals, and they all like different things. I don't think you can pick one.
So this is where science merges with experience, and if you go read a lot about coral biology and the different areas that the corals come from, the different depths and the lights that they're exposed to, having a wide blue spectrum hits the sweet spot for most of them, and probably going to produce the easiest to reproduce results.
Well, and they're so adaptable creatures. The corals are adaptable to all kinds of things. So even if you have a sliver in that range, some corals might do awesome. Still good. Yeah, they can grow. I mean, you're serving their energy needs. If you shift a little bit here and there, probably still in the range.
All right, so that is the gold standard of the past, right? It has super awesome spread. We are, blanketing the tank in light from all angles using those reflectors, and it just works, man. End of story. I honestly, if you're asking me, I think it's more about the blanket of light than it is about the super perfect spectrum.
Yeah.
But it's probably a mix of both.
Well, I mean, you're covering the tank that you intend to light almost in its entirety because the fixture's so big.
All right. So, Dave, are you having technical issues over there?
It looks like without.
I see Dave messing around with the thing. So we'll just move on like it's actually working. Maybe you could get Adam to
send me a text.
Yeah. All right. So here's the thing. The biggest thing, the next question I saw was number 2 here. So maybe Dave can move over.
This is a heavy question.
Will T5 even be around in 10 years? All right. So that's actually a good question. I can answer you right now. It won't be. So, in fact, though, it's not a fair question because almost none of the lights I'm going to use are probably going to be the exact same lights that I'm using 10 years from now. So I can't plan for that 100%.
Well, you think where are metal halides right now? You can find a bulb here and there. Some bulbs are really hard to find because not very many people are carrying them anymore. The ballasts and the reflectors is huge, and so it's kind of fallen off the wayside.
So the people that make those make them for other applications, and when those other applications dry up, reefing just goes with it.
Yeah, because reefing's not supporting metal halide industry.
Yeah. So here's the thing, man, is I know they're going to go away. I know that they're the applications for T5 lighting are drying up. So I think people could probably expect to see, both the ballast, maybe the reflect. Most of the gear is probably going to dry up over 10 years. You can decide for yourself when that's going to be. But I actually saw another photo here, when somebody talked to me about this week, actually. So there's actually legislation going on about this in the EU right now. So they've actually tried to get out the next slide there, buddy. They're trying to get rid of the mercury in the light bulbs, right?
Yeah. Well, it's an environmental concern, right?
Yeah, so they have a green deal over there in Europe, and they're trying to get rid of the mercury. And actually, if you can go back there, maybe you could read those.
Let me read the highlighted parts here. So the title, renewal of exemptions for mercury and fluorescent lamps for general lighting purposes, not specifically reef, but look above you in the office. That's where most of them are. And here it says, we are writing to you to share our concerns regarding the potential renewal of exemptions for mercury and single-capped fluorescent lamps for general lighting purposes. less than 150 watts, and in double-capped linear fluorescent lamps for general lighting, T5 and T8. And then it says, Denmark's main concern here is there are no legal grounds for renewing an exemption for the use in question. Today, there are economically viable substitutes available for most of the mercury-containing lighting solutions.
Yeah, so I read a bunch of articles about this, actually, and it sounds like there's a whole lot of pressure from most of the EU on just a couple of the countries out there that actually make these things.
Yeah.
And most of, for your knowledge, the reefing ones come out of Europe. So I don't know. So, you know, in terms of gold standard, like gold standard's kind of old and it's probably going to go with it. So I don't know how long it's going to last, but there you go. So the next thing here, actually, as we hunt down the path of the platinum standard.
Yeah, if these bulbs aren't available to create a gold standard, then where are we left? What are we left with?
All right. So we were talking about these things, and Jason came in. Here we hit the next slide here. So why supplement LEDs with LEDs? And then Jason here came in, and that was a terrible photo I took of him. Turned him red. But Jason came into my office and told me, you know, why would you supplement LEDs with LEDs? And he left with a totally different mindset about it. But it's a good question.
Yeah, it was a really good question because it made we were thinking T5s did something special in that blanket of light, but they're not the only lighting options out there that can create a blanket. We just have to use what we have smarter.
So yeah, it's not about LEDs or halides or T5s and like some magic, photon fairy.
You said the T5 fairy.
The T5 fairy didn't come out and like bless this as the only reefing option. It's how the tools are used. Yeah. And so to think about how the tools are used, when I ask most people, like I asked this question probably 1,000 times now in the last decade, what do you think is lighting the reef, out in the ocean? Yeah. And immediately everybody goes to the sun. So if you look at this, I don't know, why not? It looks like the sun is lighting the earth.
Single point of light, just like my Kessel.
Yeah, so I don't know. I mean, like how could you come to any other conclusion? Except for when the sun goes behind the clouds, it really doesn't dim the earth much.
No.
Yeah, so here's the thing, man, is what we're going to do here is talk about how you combine different light sources to create the total effect here. Because it's actually the sky that's illuminating most of Earth. The sun's doing it, but what it's doing is hitting the atmosphere, exciting all the atmosphere, and then lighting the entire sky up as blue and illuminating the Earth. And then the sun, provides some additional light as well. But actually, it's the sky that's like this big, giant T5 diffused light that illuminates the planet. All right, so, however, the sun also provides a periodic intense PAR. It also provides all those nice shimmer lines that we produce, right? So when you look at all of the gold standards of the past, it's halides and T5s, LEDs and T5s. It's always a mix of different things that emulate, the halide, tiny little bulb, and then it has this giant reflector with T5s on the side. Yeah. It's the sky and the sun. Yeah. It's your Kessel and the T5s. It's the sky, it's the sun. Yeah. Almost all of these things are doing that. So if I'm talking about supplementing LEDs with LEDs, I'm actually trying to say, how do we create highly diffused lighting combined with one single source of bright lighting to create an aesthetically appealing and healthy environment for the animal? So if we look again at, just kind of further the conversation, this is what your natural reef looks like. We penciled in a bit of a sun there.
Right.
But that's what it looks like. The sky is illuminating the whole thing. It's not really the sun. And in fact, if we took away the sky, this is probably what it would look like.
It would be a one bright spotlight sun and wherever that thing was pointed at.
This shot right here, I think, is the thing where it really drives it home.
Yeah.
It is. It's the diffused lighting from the ocean or the sky that illuminates the ocean. And so if you look at it right here, the corals are getting light from all angles, right?
Front, back, and think about it at the top of a tank. They're getting light from front, back, side, top, middle, bottom. Well, not bottom, but...
Yeah, go underwater now. Same thing, man. You can see that it's the sky that is illuminating all of the corals.
Yeah.
Right? And the sun will hit it directionally at times, but it is definitely a highly diffused light. So when we think about it, we've actually seen a maybe the best application of skylight I've probably ever seen recently over at Sean's house with this 2,000-gallon reef.
Yeah, just a big, giant blanket of light. I mean, 23 Orphix, I think, and the strips. And that's that's
bonus strips for coloration, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the whole thing is covered rim to rim from tanks, and it produces a super awesome tank. So if you can see, I mean, like when we walked down this 22 feet of tank, it was awesome. It grew from side to side. They actually propagate out of this thing. It's almost like a little mini farm, and results are there, no question, right? Coloration, growth, everything. So it's not, again, what we're trying to do with the LEDs is the same thing you're trying to do with the T5s. Is the T5s are there to provide fill light, for the tank, right? Where the object light or the light is often around the same size as the object you're trying to illuminate, so it gets it from all angles. So the question is, can you do that with a LED?
LED on LED?
So that's the next question, right? So here it is.
So now we're asking the question, and we know what the spread of what T5 looks like, especially when you match it to the size of the tank. Can you do the same with an LED?
Yeah.
We tested that yesterday.
We did test it, but I've gotten this question like 100 times, maybe even more. Can you replace a T5 with an LED strip? And to be honest, I didn't know to answer that question for sure until like yesterday.
Yeah, we're
right?
fresh learned. Yeah.
But I didn't even really know that. I knew that we tested the Reef Bright strips like last month, and it kind of all blew our socks off. But I hadn't tested one against one until just the other day. If you follow my Facebook, you would have actually seen it already. But there is an answer to this thing, and it's actually really easy to obtain, and it's kind of tragic that like nobody's actually, or probably have. It just hasn't been disseminated, the information here. But we tested it, and
we've got we've got a single ATI Blue Plus bulb and a single Reef Bright XHO actinic strip.
Yeah, so I circled little areas down below so you can see, but here's the net of the story. Is the Reef Bright XHO strip that's about the same size and form factor as a single T5.
It is.
Puts out way more par, and it distributes it way better. You can see the wide angle area of blue in the center. And if you go back and look at this video, probably you can't see it on your phones, it's too small. But if you come back and look at your desktop or whatnot, you're going to see that the spread of the XHO, of the LEDs in that little reflector, outperforms the T5.
A single T5 bulb.
Yeah, so outperforms.
With higher par too.
Yeah, when you ask the question, will it be as good? It kind of defines it as, will I be able to survive with it? Now the answer is actually it outperforms.
Well, so that's and therein now we start leading to that platinum solution. If we've been thinking for this long that the T5s are the gold standard, and we just saw what the gold standard does as a single bulb, and now we've just seen it outdone by the LED, then naturally our platinum standard, or our standard should change.
It should. At least it's the beginning of the conversation, right? All right, so the next thing is, it's LEDs, though. What's the spectrum on these things, and is it going to be as good as the T5s, our gold standard that we've said? Well, here's the answer. So this is the Reef Bright XHO actinic blue against the Blue Plus. What you'll notice is it is a little bit thinner, right? And so you can look at it and decide, well, hey, man, I guess it's like a disadvantage to XHO, which I'd say it is,
in its width of spectrum range. Yeah.
Okay, but the difference there is pretty minute. It's just a little bit on both sides. And if this is a supportive light to something else, well, it's really more about what the other light is and how they blend together to a result as well. So here's the other piece of it. If you're looking at it and say, well, that's deficient, I got news for you. Every single LED out there, other than the Kessel, is grossly deficient.
We've tested them.
As bad or worse than the XHO, all of them. And I'm about to show you in just a second.
Yeah, and we've tested every single one, at least that we carry in the spectrum range, and laid it up against an ATI T5 bulb, and you can see, like you said, some gross, like margins on either side.
So this is the Kessel one against the Blue Plus. You can see it's a nearly identical spectrum. This is the only one that we've tested that looks like this. All of the other ones have pretty significant deviations. All right, so look at some of the other ones out there. So like, it's a little bit more like the XHOs. It's thinner, right? Next one. Also thinner, right? So like they just change up. Another one. Also missing a portion of the spectrum. Has some more UV, but missing something else. Next one. Looks, again, missing from different areas of the spectrum. Fills in the bottom. Next one. I mean, this is basically the Space Needle of spectrum.
That's
right?
true.
So those are all of the most popular options that we sell here and that you guys are actually using. And all of those are not quite like that. So if you really care, spectrum has to match exactly to the Blue Plus.
Yep.
Kessel's the only option.
Yeah.
All right. Other than that, they're all going to be somewhat deficient. So that's the answer to that when you're asking, will they do that? Now, the question really is some of the reason that we were successful with the LEDs is because even though they were deficient, the T5s were actually filling it in. The answer may be yes. However, that also works in reverse. So if the fill light's a little deficient, but the Kessels in the middle are actually filling that in, it works both ways.
Yeah, that's
right?
true. Yeah.
At least I believe. All right.
If Adam can, I like this question. I want to grab it at the end. Trickman 2's question about talking about value and cost and things like that. So we'll save that one for the end too.
Oh, sweet. All right. So here comes the other part. For me, this is one of the things is like the most overlooked thing I think that in the discussion out there, because it's kind of a personal discussion, so you're not really able to measure it against one person and another.
That's true.
But it's visual appeal. Like, what is the coloration of the corals? What is the coloration or the shimmer? How does it make the tank look? The sole reason I own this thing is because I want it to look awesome. If the tank looked like crap, I would not own it. I wouldn't be in this hobby.
That's
right?
true.
I want something like really visually stunning. That is the pursuit of that is what is the like nirvana of reefing, right?
Yeah.
Like we're always trying to get it better, right? So I did a couple of videos of it, and we did 4 options.
Some blind
So do you remember what
tests.
the 4 options were that we did?
We had the Kessel on its own for a shimmer. We had Kessel T5 combo for shimmer and color. And then we had the Reef Brights and Kessel on their own. And then we had this, Frankenstein T5 Reef Bright and Kessel on its own. And then we put it up to a blind test on Facebook and here in the office.
Okay, so going into it, pursuit of platinum.
Right.
I thought for sure what was going to win would have been the Kessels for the shimmer, the T5s to mute it,
Right.
and then the XHO actinic blues to add in the coral or the fluorescent pop.
Yeah.
That's the platinum. I thought for sure that would be the outcome, and that would be what we're going to do here today. Adjust from last week. I was wrong. it isn't true. And so what we did is you can watch these, and again, if you're on a mobile phone, it's kind of actually hard to see, all the differences because again, we're looking at the difference between great, and perfect. So each one of these is different.
So when I watched this, I focused on some of those plating corals that you can see the shimmer on, and then the shadowed areas, kind of up at the top. But if you're just browsing through, they all look the same.
They look pretty similar, but I'm going to show you one thing. Will you start that video over again, Dave?
It's going.
All right, so
This is
it's
number 1.
pretty intense shimmer is what I'm seeing.
Yeah.
And it's just a little too much flicker for me in almost all of them. And so the water turnover at the top of this tank was intentionally really, really strong, but number 4, you'll see it mute.
So we're
in 1 second.
a little muter, and then here.
Boom. It's a little bit more muted than
that's
all
true.
the rest. And because of that, we did on Facebook, right? People shared which one they liked. And I will tell you, I can't read all these, but it was
number
like
4, number 4, number 4, number 4.
4, 4, 4, 4, 4, 4, 4, 1, or 4, 4, 4, 1, or 4. It was almost all that. And I'll tell you what the options were. 1 was 2 or 4 XHO actinic blues with the Kessel in the middle turned largely to white, right? Number 4 was actually 2 actinic blue XHOs, 2 50/50 XHOs, and the Kessel largely turned to blue.
So that, I mean, doesn't that defy logic if you're just kind of thinking about it? It defies kind of my logic. Wouldn't LED shimmer from the Kessel, which we all know is just really massive lines because single point, wouldn't that be even more shimmery when you add in more LEDs? And not only that, but now I've got white and blue, so I should be seeing like this disco-y ball of white, blue, and just a ton of shimmer.
So you'd think, but it didn't perform that way. Yeah. And there's a couple of reasons I think why. One, and I was surprised by the way, I thought for sure shimmer-wise, Kessel, T5, winner, hands down. I don't even need to look.
Because that's what we felt was muting the shimmer of the Kessel.
I've seen it. I love it. It's like near and dear to my heart. I've been talking about it forever. It's the one that I love the most. And in the end, I have to abandon it. It's still really good. Again, we're talking about great versus even better, right? So we're splitting hairs here, but that's the pursuit of the discussion I think that a lot of us are having, is the pursuit of an evolution. So what we want to do here is find out why. And I think it's because all of those LEDs in the XHOs are in a reflector. So it's not like creating tons and tons of shimmer lines. It's like just sending millions of them out. And if you actually look at just the XOs, it kind of looks like fuzz in the tank.
Yeah, it does.
Right?
It's not disco ball because we don't have like 6 or 8 different colors to blend that. Or if there was 6 or 8 different colors, we'd probably see like all the colors separated. But it's only 2.
But when you have all 4 rows of LEDs and they're all coming not just from the points of light, but also from all the angles on the reflectors, it just kind of creates a diffused light in the tank and actually mutes the Kessel really well. And in fact, everybody who saw it here, everybody who saw it on Facebook, all agreed. When I say everybody, 80% agreed.
Yeah,
and the really only discussion was not even in the T5 arena. Neither of those were actually even mentioned for most people.
No, and are we getting the color too?
All right. Oh yeah, we also have color. Yes. All right. So that's next up, right? So shimmer gone. So we thought the 50/50s, the actinic blues, and the Kessel turned largely to like 20% blue or something was the answer. So this one's even harder actually. So we did color.
Which is, again, is, subjective to who's watching it and what they think is the best color.
The camera also a little bit, but I think the camera is actually pretty accurate in this case. So there's 4 options here. We'll breeze through them real quick, and then I'll talk about them in just a second. So awesome color, I think. And then in option number 2, we'll see awesome color. I will tell you though, to me, it looks more tealy and less appealing to me. And if you watch through again, I think you'll probably see it.
I watched that bird's nest.
This is actually
left.
all 3, by the way. Or I think it was number 2 was actually all 3, but we'll have to go back. Number 4 was the winner.
This had my vote.
Yep, had my vote too. And there's 2 reasons. Actually, I picked different reasons than you did. So if you end up getting number 4 here, there's that bird's nest in the left-hand corner.
Yeah, here's number 1, here's number 2. When I watched this, I watched that bird's nest in the left corner because I needed to focus on one. I can't tell the color if I'm just looking at it as a whole, but I watched that bird's nest, and then we get to number 4. Like here, it's blue on green, but now here, the purples come out. And now I see blue, green, and purple.
And that red acro up in the top. That one actually looks the best. It's option 1 here, but as you'll see as you go through this again, that acro with the red in at the top gets better and better every single shot. So at the end of it, here's the thing. Everyone here agreed that the number 4 had won. This was all done blind. Nobody knew. They were just looking at the shots. See how awesome the coloration, man, the fluorescence just like comes out of everywhere.
I agree.
We are splitting hairs. We are going from like anybody would be happy to have any one of those.
That's true.
But we're pursuit of platinum, right? Like some of the next level, not just the gold standard. And so because of that, actually, we saw this. First number, I couldn't see any difference.
Majority of people voted, I just can't see. I can't tell.
I think partially that's because you're looking on your phone, and actually on your phone is super impossible. Like on Facebook, you're looking on your phone.
Yeah, and I was on my desk. I was on my desktop, and I had paused the video and just jumped through each one like multiple times to try to pick out nuances, and it was hard.
All right, so go back to it again though. So number 4 actually was a clear winner. Number 1, which is the 4 actinic blues, won. And then 2 and 3 are not even on the board, right? So those are the T5 options. So again, coloration, shimmer, like gold standard, everybody loves it.
Just kind of fell off.
I don't know, man. Yeah. Like everybody who saw it here in person and everybody we shared it with on Facebook said,
blindly,
I like the other options better.
Huh.
All right.
So does that mean we have a platinum standard?
Do we have a platinum standard yet? I don't know.
Yeah.
So here's the thing. There's another super deep question within all of this. That's this one. Does the XHO highlight other lights work?
Oh, this is a really good question.
Yep. So is it? Actually, there's a question right after this from Ryan Thompson. He brought this up. I don't know if you can read it.
Let's see if I might be able to pick it out. It says, do you think they could get these results on their own rather than just showing off what the Kessels and T5s have already built?
So that is the question, right? So we threw these XHOs on the tank.
15,
looks awesome.
Yeah, 15 months of growth under a Kessel and T5s, and now we're just throwing lighting options over the top and saying this one's better than the other. Could it have got us there?
So that is it, man.
Yeah.
Like up until today, everybody who saw that tank has said, "Oh, man, if I could produce that in 15 months, like I'd be really happy."
Yeah.
And largely, we believe it's because of the Kessel T5 mix. Just plug and play, set it up, and walk away.
Yeah.
So is it the Kessels and T5s that created that, and now the XHOs are just going to highlight it? And more worrisome, is it going to like deteriorate when you take away the T5s? So there's only one way to find out today.
We have to test it.
So the first thing is, I don't believe so. I don't believe that that's the case. I've seen enough people use the XHOs on a lot of grow out systems, specifically to highlight the coloration in them. I know the balancing the spectrums of the Kessel with those things and what it produces and the mix it produces. I am pretty darn certain that we can recreate this thing the same way. Certain enough that I'm going to do it on my own home tank.
Hey.
Right? I'm investing more time, effort, and a little bit of my soul into this tank than anything I've ever done. I was certain I was going to do T5 Kessels because that's just the way that I roll. I'm going to deviate, and that's because I believe in all of the things we talked about. And part of it is also that question of, will the T5s even be around in 10 years? And I think not so much that I need to worry about that, but I think as somebody that like talks about this stuff with you guys,
right,
we need to be the ones that go out and try new things, do the best of our ability to be responsible about it, share that information, try it out, be the trailblazers, be willing to get shot in the back like we've done with this tank so many times, and then share that experience with everybody else.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, I think so. And you're like you said, you're building a 10-year tank, and if the technology is advanced from like the metal halides, the T5s, the LEDs, and LEDs are becoming more prominent and more prominent and more prominent, somewhere in there on a long enough timeline, the writing's on the wall for some of this historical lighting that's just not going to happen anymore. And like the whole world is changing away from some of those older technologies into more efficient LED type technology. Maybe there's something else along the horizon after that, but planning for at least the next 10, 20 years, that's the way the whole world is going.
It's inevitable.
Yeah.
Right? Like we can see it all come around. So this is the answer now. We've asked this question, and I thank you, Craig, for challenging us to be better. So this is the number question.
Here's his voice gets heard.
So is this the platinum standard that we created? Did it beat the gold with the desired mounting height, tank shape, hood design, personal desires for color and shimmer? For myself. So that is the most important thing. The platinum standard applies to you and your tank, your desires. So don't let anybody tell you otherwise.
Yeah.
But as we apply it to the 360, is this going to be what I believe to be the platinum standard? So let's answer those questions real quick.
Okay.
It has to beat the gold to be better than gold,
okay,
right? Is it better in terms of spread?
Spread and par distribution?
Yes. The answer is, I know that to be the case. It is better.
Yes.
Right? Do I know that it's better than the Spectrum?
No.
No. It's at a disadvantage here, but a disadvantage in a different way.
Okay.
All right? So to take one away. All right? Is it better in terms of color? Yes.
It was voted better.
Everybody that I know, online and in person, said it looked better. Is it better in terms of shimmer? And the answer is yes, right? So in everything that visual appeal, how it grows coral, everything that we're talking about, I think, other than the small disadvantage of spectrum blended with the Kessel, I'm going to give it. It's better overall than our old gold standard, and it's something that I'm willing to use. I appreciate Craig trying to challenge me, and it did change.
Yes.
We swapped out.
We were just like, not after last week's episode, we went straight into your office and started playing around with these things, and this is where this all evolved from.
It did change. So last week, what we were going to do is 4 XHOs, or generally that, and then put in the Kessels tuned to white. And what we're now going to do is 50-50s balanced with the XHO actinics, and the Kessels turned largely to blue. So that is what produced the best color and shimmer for us, and I think the best blended spectrum as well. And ultimately going to produce, I think, the best result. And so you can see it here, actually, from our thumbnail.
Yeah.
That's basically our new blended spectrum, man. And there is one actually interesting question that came up quite a few times right after that.
Okay.
Which is, what about the Orphic bars?
Yeah, I wonder how the Orphic bars will stack up against the Reef Bright bars. That's a very good question.
So I actually hit up Jason and like, Jason, why don't we have these Orphic bars? Because I've talked to you guys about it before.
You guys have been asking us over and over. I see in all the comments of my lighting videos. What about the Orphic bars?
So he told me that we actually have the Orphic bars on the dock. And
oh, really?
If they're not on the dock, they're on the way because they were supposed to arrive like a few weeks ago. So they must be
go.
here somewhere. So hopefully we'll actually be able to test those things and share that as well. And it's a different thing because they have lenses on them instead of a reflector, I believe. But we'll dig into those as well. So hopefully there's a couple of questions here that's super tiny. I don't know. Was Adam able to send over some questions?
Oh, yeah, we got some questions here. Let me pull them up here. We're doing it a little differently. But
all right. So I don't know. Hopefully you guys learned something along the way here for me, because I want to up our game. And I actually, even just selfishly, I want my own tank to look as nice as I possibly can. This is, the kind of the end game of tanks for me.
Yeah. I
really want to put my heart and soul into this and watch it flourish. So it's super important we get it right.
So it looks like we got a couple here. First one is from K-Dub on YouTube. He says, I bought the 5-mount fixture and bought one of each, 50-50, actinic and blue. What should I fill the other two with? Actinics? So it looks like, actually the answer to this question is coming up in not tomorrow's episode, but the next episode after and the episode after that. So tomorrow we get to see what the Lumilight standards do at 2 inches above the water, and what our mix was, which was three actinics and 2 50-50s. The next week we talk about Lumilight Pros in using 4 of those on that same 5-mount bracket, which is 3 actinics, 1 50-50. But there's kind of like, and then the XHO the following week after, which was 5, 3, and 2 again, 3 at blues and 3 50-50s. And what we're finding here is that that mix between that ratio of 3 to 2, or if you're using 4, 3 to 1, but it seems to have the same spectrum, and it actually makes the tank look really awesome with those combinations. We actually pulled the whites out because we tested mixed in some of the just standard whites. It just didn't look good.
So what we found actually with the XHO specifically is Brent and I thought that you could do 1 white down the middle and then 4 of the blues.
Yeah.
But 1 light down the middle actually ended up being about the same with those Lumilights because they have multiple rows.
Right.
There's the same as going 2 50-50s and 3 blues, and they would spread out a little bit more evenly.
Right.
So that is what I would do, is about a ratio of 2 50-50s to 3 blues, somewhere in there. You can adjust them, so hopefully you'll find the right mix.
Turned out really well. Thanks Poseidon's Reef for the
thank you very much.
$10 there. Yeah, he says he spoke with Elliot and he's ready for the quarantine video, just waiting on us. By the way, he went with bare bottom too. I think he has the same size tank too.
Oh yes.
All right.
We're supposed to have Ellie out here many times. Stupid COVID.
Eventually. No. Let's see. Greg Carroll, he's asking, hey, Greg. He says, wonder what the Radion Blue would look like with XHO supplement, which I think I was, after talking about this and supplementing LEDs with LEDs, I have the Radion Blue over the 60-gallon cube in my office, and they actually make brackets for these, specifically for them, the XHO bracket for blues, for Radion G5s, and for Hydras, and I might try it out.
I'm gonna give you my own personal opinion here. And my opinion is actually, you can see it. Can we go find one of those shots of the spectrum there? And not that one, not that one, not that one. That one right there. Okay. So this one is actually the Radion right here, right? And so what you'll see is these are ratios, by the way. So it's not necessarily, it's not missing the spectrum up top.
It's just more.
It's just more in that center bit there, right?
Yep.
So it's actually covering the whole range here with the Radion, but it actually has a peak of that like 460 light in there. So for me, the Radion's basically like a Blue Plus that already has the actinic XHO
fill light
in it. You could go even farther and add the little bars on the side of it as well. However, like if I was going LED only, there's no question. If you watched last episode, it'd be the Radions because they have the best spread of all of them out there. But you know, in this case, I'm only partially using the XHO strips as a to add color. I'm really using them as a source of par and to provide that fill light that's like the sky that comes from all angles to supplement the other lights. So even with your Radions, if you put them on there, they might add some additional like color pop or fluorescence, but it might also just continue to add more fill light to an already, like I'd say best in class, but there isn't really even a second place if you followed last week.
Single,
That light has the best LED spread of anything, including things that come in a form factor that are 5 times bigger. It's just engineering and the lens design they're using. Like it just goes to show that they're not all the same. And when you really look into the data and how they're used, there's huge separations between all of them, especially as to how you use them and what's best for your specific height.
Yeah. All right. So last one here is from Trickman 2, the one we pulled out. So we were in the middle of the conversation of, all right, so does it hit spectrum? Does it hit color? Does it hit par? Does it hit distribution? And Trickman 2 brings up a good point here. He says, what about value, like cost? Is it going to cost my Kessels plus my Reef Brights? Isn't that cost prohibitive over going with the T5s, the gold standard?
Absolutely. So the T5s in some places are cheaper. You could probably equate it out over time with bulb changes and energy efficiency if you want, but initial cost for sure. So I can tell you, when you're looking for the platinum standard, it's going to have platinum cost attached to it.
That makes total sense.
Yeah. So I mean, those are kind of the mix. Like, and that's one of the things, man. Like, I could have a platinum standard to a specific budget as well, right? Like, in this case, like, I hate to say it, man, but money is not the problem here. What we're looking for is the best available solution for a dream super epic tank, man. Like, this isn't the first rodeo. Like, restarted 100 tanks by now. This is the one, right? I want to get it right. And in actuality, man, like it isn't just dumping money at it either, because if you look at the original platinum post there, you can see his platinum was 2 Radions, 1 AP700 plus T5s. Like, so that is like a platinum cost to a platinum solution as well. But if you read his thread, it's because he had specific desires actually for the tank, and he solved them with that solution. And so, like, again, for each of us, we have different desires and different solutions. But yeah, if you're looking for the lowest cost solution, for me, I like gold standard kind of element. I'd probably still go with the T5s and maybe even go as small as like an AI Prime. And I don't know if we've measured that.
Yeah, I don't remember that off the top of my head. We did a cost per par analysis. The 4-bulb T5 fixture wound up being the most cost per par, but it's not putting out very much par to begin with for the cost. But AI Prime, or the Primes, kind of fell somewhere in between there cost per par wise for what they put out. But one of the lowest cost lighting options if you stack them on top of each other.
So that was one of the things also is like when we did all this, you kind of get surprised by stuff because like the Radeon is presumed to be like the most expensive option out there really amongst them.
Cost per par wise? No.
No, it was actually lower cost per par, or like a dime or something. It was like right next to the ATI 8-bulb T5 fixture.
Yep.
So we're going to do a full episode on the cost per par stuff,
so.
so you can like kind of get an idea of that, because a lot of people are obviously looking for the most cost-effective, best solution, right?
Right.
And I think we can get to the heart of that with the cost per par thing, combined with the spread and all the other functions. But all right. So we poked the bear today.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah, like we shared everything I could possibly. I just felt like this is one of those things you spend so much time as a reefer talking about lighting, trying to perfect lighting. What does good even look like?
Yeah.
How do you define it? What do you weigh it against?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, what is the gold standard? Well, we all have this. It's kind of gold standard in the back of our heads. It's what we've compared it to for I don't know how many years now.
Yeah.
But
so next week, I know what it's going to be for sure this time. Yeah, we're going to talk nutrient export. So we're going to talk about protein skimmer. We're going to talk about the roller mat.
Yep.
We're going to talk about that new algae reactor. If you follow a BRStv guy on Facebook, you've probably already seen it. But yeah, we're going to talk about all that different stuff about how we manage nutrients in this tank, or what the plan is anyway, how it's going to be installed, hopefully trick out some of the gear that's in there and see all that.
And I got to give a shameless plug for tomorrow's episode.
Tomorrow,
Lumi Light standards, and we're giving you the whole rundown on how to use just the strip lighting as your primary reef light, and it actually performs way up there.
Super low cost in relation to almost all the other stuff, achieving actually some of the best results we've seen. So the XHO is the high end, the Lumilight's designed to get a similar result, but for a lot less money. So that's a great one.
Yep.
If you want to see the whole playlist, if you're just checking in for the first time on the 360, you can see it right here, and we'll see you next week.